Hello everyone. In this video session, we will be talking about Scenario Manager. Some of you may not have used this before, and this is the case study where we talk about how to use this and what are the applications. Now on the left hand side, I have price fed in for a particular product and the quantities that are being sold. Now I can quickly get the revenue by multiplying the rupees 10 with the quantity being sold, that's 6,000. Now a formula was fed in for variable cost which said 50% of the revenue is going to form the variable cost, and the fixed cost has been fixed at 1,000 level. So based on these, I can quickly calculate the profit, that is equal to revenue less fixed cost less variable cost. Perfect. Now based on this already prepared financial model, a very basic one rather, I would try to create three scenarios. Scenario 1, which is referring to the base case, the current case, that is price 10 rupees and quantity being sold 600. There is a best case scenario wherein the potential price can be at the rate of 12 rupees per unit. The quantity being sold can be 1000. The worst case scenario tells me the price is down at 8 rupees and quantity being sold at 500. Now I would want to see the results, that is, based on these changes, input cells changes, I would want to find out what is the impact on profit. So here I go, I'm going to create three scenarios which can be replicated multiple number of times in terms of execution. Let me go to data. Let me reach out to what if analysis, and the first of the three options, let me click on that scenario manager. Now once I look at the interface, it tells me no scenarios has been defined so far. Please choose add to add scenarios. So there I go. Let me click on the add button. It tells me how do you add scenario. It asks for name. So I give it a name. Let's say base case, that is. It asks for changing cells, which means what are the inputs that you are expecting change in. I'll be referring to the cells containing price, that is C5, comma, and the next cell which refers to the quantity being sold. Now it says comment by, created by, so I may simply change this and say test case. Okay. Now since you mentioned two cells as changing cells, it asks you whether C5 as per base case should be 10. Yes, for the base case at least it has to be 10. For the quantity being sold, the base case refers as 600, so I'm keeping it that way. Let me add one more scenario which says best. The changing cells remain the same. As soon as I choose that particular box, you'll notice it started blinking a while back. I press OK. Now this time best case refers price as 12, so I change that to 12, and the quantity being sold, that is C6, is at 1000. So I'm just keeping the revised numbers as per the respective cases. Let me add the last scenario. So I'm talking about the worst scenario. Let me click on the box, and as you can notice, the cells start blinking, changing cells. Let me press OK. So unfortunately, you cannot simply choose the cell which contains the worst case scenario price or quantity being sold. There is no such option. You'll have to hard code it. So for example, worst case scenario tells me price being 8 and quantity being sold is 500. So each time you add a scenario, each time you add a changing cells category, you'll have to write that many number of times in the changing cells value. So my three scenarios has been built up. Let me press OK. As you can see, base, best, worst. So if I double click on best, it will change the numbers as per best case scenario, and hence the result changes. If I double click on worst, let me return back to base, that's 10 rupees and 600 quantity. Now I want to do a comparative analysis, for which let me create a summary report. So based on these three scenarios, let me click on summary. Once I click on summary, a very tiny little box comes in which tells me scenario summary can be derived based on the fact that result cells is C12. Now you can keep C12 as result cells. Alternatively, in addition to that, you can also add the revenue cell as result cells, meaning the input changes will reflect into these result cells. Let me show you as soon as I press OK. So there you go. What I have in front of me, the two input cells being changing as per base, best, worst scenario. C5 and C6, these are the cells which are referring to price and quantity being sold respectively. The result cells are referring to profits and the revenue. Now for 2-3 reasons, Scenario Manager is not so popular. Why is that so? One, because it gives me cell references. Instead of saying this was price, or let's say this was quantity being sold. So there you have to make a change. And apart from that, if you make any changes to, let's say in this current scenario, let's say base case is 6 rupees. It doesn't change any numbers in the output or result cells. So it's a static data. And one drawback I have already mentioned in the previous case scenario, that number of times that you add scenarios, you will have to mention those individual values by hard coding them. So because of these 3 reasons, it is rarely used, and this is the output report that gets generated. So that was a quick overview of Scenario Manager. Of course, if you want to edit or delete that, you can go back to the same sheet, Scenario Manager, and then edit or delete button to edit and delete the scenarios respectively. So we'll talk more on the other options of what if analysis in the upcoming videos, that is goal seek and data tables. And trust me, the goal seek and data tables even more interesting. See you in the next video.